Last time out in Navarra, the sun shone and fans turned out in their thousands to enjoy the GT1 World Championship show. Qualifying race winners Winkelhock and Basseng opened up a useful gap at the start, while behind them the usual first corner antics were costly for the series-leading number 23 Nissan, leaving Michael Krum and Lucas Lohr with much to do. The second Al Inkel Lamborghini quickly made progress from a grid penalty, finding the way past the Corvette, then chasing the Nissans. Winkelhock was pulling away up front, with Jamie Campbell-Walter in second and the Dumbreck Westbrook car lying third. But it was the second Lamborghini that made the most of a great pit stop. A fantastic effort by the Al Inkel crew put them out ahead of the Nissans that they'd been chasing. Jamie Campbell-Walter's car, now driven by David Brabham, was held up in the pits by its own teammate, and then Westbrook's release was looked at. Was it an unsafe release? Jamie Campbell-Walter was not impressed. That meant that Marc Basseng was now leading, but not for long. They had made an error on their pit stop. Their mechanic had not got behind the line. The resultant drive-through meant they came out in second place, but still ahead of the Nissan of David Brabham. Further back, the battle for fourth was exciting, but Westbrook ultimately let the Ford go through pretty easily, and that was because he knew he had a drive-through penalty coming up for that unsafe release in the pit lane. Desperately disappointing for the number 22 Nissan. Meanwhile, up front, it was a straightforward run to the flag for Nicky Pastorelli and Dominic Schwager to record their first ever victory, leading home a Lamborghini 1-2. Best of the rest was the Nissan of Jamie Campbell-Walter and David Brabham, still brewing their rather slow pit stop, but celebrating being the first of the Nissans to cross the line. For driver and team manager at Al Inkel, Marc Basseng, it was a very special day indeed. It's a short hop from Navarra to the Paul Ricard circuit in the south of France for what is the final European race of the year. Aston Martin arrives at Paul Ricard with its two outfits running second and fourth in the team's championship. Young driver yet to score a win, but both cars have recorded podiums this year and a victory can't be far off. French team Hexis, by contrast, has enjoyed a win for each car, and for driver Clivio Piccioni, this is as close as it gets to a home race, bearing in mind that he comes from a little unassuming place just down the road called Monaco.
It's a very important weekend for us. It's a home race for the team, and we have to fight to get to the top. It's a 4 race to go to the end, and it's getting close. We have to push very hard this weekend, grab as many points as possible and get on the podium.
The number 11 Corvette has shown great pace at both Silverstone and Navarra in the last two events, while the number 47 car, also now in Team China colours, scored its best result at Navarra with 7th, and Michael Rossi's also hoping for success on home turf.
I know we can be in top 5 really, comparing the performance in the race in Silverstone, also in Navarra, and this track I think is good for the car, the brand new design. Now with all the team we know each other better and better, so yeah, the target in front of the whole family and the sponsors will be to be in top 5 in the race, and why not the podium.
The Ford GT is nimble and kind on its tyres, but the long straight here doesn't play to its strengths. Makovicky is back with Max Martin after stand-in driver Bertrand Baguette helped the number 41 car to 4th in Spain. There's no change at Belgian racing, where Vanina X and Christopher Nygaard in one car are backed up by Antoine Leclerc and former race winner Jan Claret in the other.
After Navarra it was not so bad because we have a good performance, but the car was some problem during the race. But here it's more important to make a really good result because we have a lot of fans, and the French people come for me and for all the team. Top 10 is really good, and we will see after.
Lamborghini dominated the entire event in Spain, and Marc Basseng and Marcus Winkelhock have regained the lead in the Drivers' Championship. While with victory for Schwager and Pastorelli in the main race, does Dominic Schwager feel they're now on a roll?
I don't think we will be that strong here, but our goal is to collect some points. It's hard to say what is possible here, but I really think that Nissan and Aston Martin will be really strong, so for us it's just try to finish the race and collect some points.
Nissan will be hoping to close the gap to Lamborghini this weekend, and at the track where they finished on the podium in both races last year. Nicky Katzberg will enjoy his second outing at Sumo Power alongside Bernoldi, and Campbell-Walter with David Brabham are chasing another podium. At JR Motorsports, top points challengers Michael Krum and Lucas Luhr will need to keep an eye on their British colleagues as Richard Westbrook and Peter Dumbreck chase down their first win of the season.
Can we beat the Germans? Well, we have to if we want to be top dog. I mean, it is a team game, and at the end of the day, we're representing JR Motorsports. But of course, in any team, you have a lot of rivalry, and we've had our bad luck. So I think we choose some luck, and with that, I think we can catch them up. We're not going to let them have it easy, that's for sure.
We are in a beautiful part of the world for this final European round of the FIA GT1 World Championship. We're at the Paul Ricard high-tech test track. Hello and welcome from Ben Edwards and Johnny Herbert with Hayley Coxon in pit lane. And Johnny, this racetrack, a track that it looks unique because of these blue and red stripes all over the place that replace gravel traps and allow cars to go off hopefully without retiring, is also used as a test track and is demanding on the tyres and on the drivers. We're going to see an interesting race this afternoon.
Yeah, I think we are, and I think the important thing you brought up there is the tyres, because the circuit is very, very hard on the tyres. The surface is very aggressive, and because of that, you're going to have to sort of try and get those tyres to last the whole way through the race. But it's a great little circuit. It's got some fast stuff, some slow stuff, and some very technical corners as well. Sector 1, a couple of little straights, but then you're going into some really slow stuff right at the far end of Sector 1, and then you've got Sector 2, which is the long straight, which is about 1.8 kilometres long, but it's got a little chicane in the middle.
Yep, nowadays it runs a chicane in the middle. Track temperatures come up to 37.9 degrees, so that's about the hottest we've had for the GT1 cars on track. They've been qualifying, of course, this morning, but now we're going racing in higher temperatures. Still a pretty stiff breeze, as you can see from the flags there. And starting up front then on the front end of the grid, we've got the all-British Nissan, car number 22, Richard Westbrook and Peter Dumbreck, and it's Dumbreck that will be starting the race. But it's a JR Motorsports front row, because alongside them is Lucas Luhr in another of the Nissan GTRs, carrying a bit of ballast, some 20 kilos on board the number 23 car, but that's going to be an interesting fight between them. On the second row then, we've got an Aston Martin and a Sumo Power Nissan. As we go back onto the next row, we've got an Aston and a Corvette, qualified reasonably well here too. And as we carry on all the way down the field, you'll notice that actually what's very interesting is that the championship leaders, Marcus Winkelhock and Mark Basseng in particular, he's starting the car on the right there. That car is way back on the last row of the grid but one. So for the series leaders who had such a great time of it in Navarra, they've got their work cut out here.
They certainly have, and it's going to be difficult for them because of, as I say, that tyre degradation that we do have here, and at the end of the day they've got to manage it, but at the same time they've got to pass people as well.
Yeah, so it's a 1 hour race as ever. Driver change coming at somewhere between 25 and 35 minutes in the race. They get to change tyres as well, and we're going to see these two go into battle. Portimao was another event where we saw these two cars fighting for victory. Well, the Westbrook-Dumbreck car won the qualifying race, but they've yet to win a championship race. This is the qualifying race that we're about to watch. Well, what is going to happen? Krum and Luhr came back to win the championship race there at Portimao, and it does seem as though the Nissans have that kind of pace that they enjoyed in Portugal. Good down the straights, but good in the quick corners as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they've been sorted to this type of track. We saw it last year. They actually were very good here, got some podium finishes. and this year they seem to have done a bit of work, and that's why they're on the front row.
What about Aston Martin though? Because we saw Thomas earlier, and actually a bit of a slow getaway for the Aston there. That is a problem, is it? Turner, no, he's got off the line.
Thankfully.
You spoke to Thomas earlier and Darren. Both felt they got a quick car, even if maybe they didn't end up with the very top positions.
No, I think they were saying they were sort of surprised how good they were here, which I was quite surprised to hear, because they have done a lot of testing here for the Le Mans 24 Hours, so they know the circuit very well. They can use that data that they have for this weekend, and I think Thomas did a sterling job in qualifying, and I think they're going to look very strong in the race. The car has got a good balance.
So let's take a look at the grid then. On the front row it is the two Nissans, the two teammate cars, and then on the second row you've got the Aston Martin. Alex Muller will be starting that car, and David Brabham will be starting the Nissan alongside. Then on the third row you've got Darren Turner, who seems to be okay, and the Corvette alongside as well. And then further behind you've got Schwager and Pastorelli's Lamborghini starting 7th, the Martin McAvicky Ford starts 8th, then Dusseldorp and Rossi, another Corvette there, that starts in 10th place alongside the Hexis Aston. Benoldi's not feeling too good, he starts 11th, but he's suffering a bit this weekend. Henrici's 12th, Basseng all the way down in 13th, ahead of Christopher Nygaard, and down towards the back end of the field then we've got Claret and Leclerc and Piccini and Hohenadel, who have had a penalty, so they ended up being pushed back down the grid. They should have started on the third row, but the penalty's been applied to them, and therefore they're starting down at the back of the field, and they're going to have to cut their way through. And interestingly, Leclerc and Claret in the number 10 Belgian Racing Ford this morning didn't even really bother with qualifying, because they wanted to save their tyres, so they just didn't qualify really. They did an outlap and back in again, but they've got lots of new sets of tyres available, and they're hoping that that will work for them as we go through this race. Now last year, 12 months ago, this is the second visit to Paul Ricard for GT1. It was a great track for Maserati. Now Maserati no longer a part of the championship. We're going to see how Nissan in particular get on. You're riding on board the Corvette here. Michael Rossi had a good result last time out. You can see the really interesting shot as he weaves there, how it sort of tips from one side to the other. You can see the car leaning one way and then the other as he warms up those tyres a little bit. Now he's slowed it down a bit more on the approach to Scene. You don't quite get that same impression, but quite a long way down you can see the Dominic Schwager, Nicky Pastorelli Lamborghini, and then way down the field the championship leading car. So they really have got their work cut out, and it doesn't really look as though this is a track that suits them. They feel they suffer down the long straights, a little bit like the Fords. The Fords suffer with the torque off the corners, the Lamborghinis do suffer for straight line speed. There's Stefan Mucker, ready to take over from Darren Turner, of course, as long as Darren gets that far in the race. And let's hope, Johnny, that we get a clear start, because we have had quite a few first corner incidents in the championship this year. Yeah,
we have, and we had a lot of incidents actually last year. We had a lot of people, a few people crossing the white line and actually going onto the blue strip you actually see on screen down the start-finishing line and getting penalties because of that. So at the end of the day, these guys have got to stay in between those white lines, because there is a chance that they may spend a bit of time in the pits, and they don't want to do that because obviously they're going to lose track time. But they're coming up to their last turn before the start.
Round 7 of the 2011 FIA GT1 World Championship qualifying race here at Paul Ricard is about to get underway. The lights are on red, we wait for them to change. We go green, and it's the two Nissans off the front row. On the right, as you look at it, Peter Dumbreck is going to try and take the lead from Lucas Law as the Aston Martins gang up behind. Alex Muller, Darren Turner also looking for a slot down into the first corner. It's Dumbreck ahead, Lucas Law just into second place ahead of Alex Muller. Then look at the cars cutting the corner there through the first couple of bends. That's the thing with lots of runoff here at Paul Ricard. But the Nissans are 1 and 2. Alex Muller in the Aston is in third place, and everyone else jostling. We're going to get him in contact. Oh, big bang there, and the Lamborghini gets onto the dirt and gets back on it. Well, not really dirt, but onto the blue area, gets back on again, and that is Marc Basseng trying to make up ground after their poor qualifying performance and getting knocked off in the process. Back on board with that camera mounted in the headlight of the Lamborghini, and he's still in the fight, still going, and in behind the Hexis Aston Martin, the number 3 car with Steph Dusseldorp. But it's Dumbreck who's made the break.
Well, that was a nice little shortcut, that Lamborghini done. I think he made about 4 or 5 places by doing that. But he's got to be careful. I think the stewards may have a look at that. We've got more
Benoldi spinning in front of the Ford. He'd already made contact with the Ford, and that is Leclerc and Claire's car.
The door there's a door going.
My goodness.
I think that was off the GT40, I think.
Was it? All going crazy in the middle, or into the entrance to the chicane there, as everybody trying to jostle position. I tell you what.
Yeah, this one, it was off of that one there. It's a bit crumpled, that one, yes.
That is Mark Henrici's Ford, and well, he's had some good first laps this year. He's made a lot of places on first laps, but it ain't happened today, has it? So it is Dumbreck leading from Lucas Luhr. Alex Muller is in third place, and then let's just keep an eye. Yeah, Darren Turner in fourth. So you've got two Nissans, two Astons. Then you've got the other Nissan of David Brabham, there it is, being chased by the Corvette of Andy Zuber. He's in the car with Mike Hazelmans this weekend. You're on board with Brabham here, running in fifth, and he's got that Corvette breathing down on him, and the Corvette's down the inside. Oh, Zuber's good at that. He loves that inside line into a tight corner like that. Seen him do that before at Brno and other places, and he's moved up into fifth place as Dumbreck continues to lead from Lucas Luhr.
Great little move, nice place to do it, up the inside, very slow corner. Got out of the corner well, David trying to get back, but he's not going to be able to do it. It's amazing how that Corvette still, to this day, has still got that competitive edge to it, and it's doing pretty good at the moment. We've got a nice little battle at the front. It's obviously the two Nissans and the two Astons, and now it's really going to be settling down into a nice rhythm.
Behind the Corvette and the Nissan there is the number 37 Lamborghini of Dominic Schwager. In the pits has come Jan Claire in the number 10 Belgian Ford. Also in the pits is its teammate Christopher Nygaard. So once again the two Belgian racing Fords have got into trouble on the opening lap, and it seems to happen all too often that these two yellow cars are in trouble on the opening lap, and they save tyres in qualifying. It hasn't done them any good at all. Lucas Luhr just moving out of the slipstream but not trying to overtake up front. He still sits in second place. Brabham there holding on to sixth place in his Nissan behind this lead group. The Corvette still chasing the leaders down, then the Lamborghini. The other Ford in there is Max Martin in the number 41 car, Michael Rossi in the number 47 Corvette. Both Corvettes in the Team China colours this weekend, so we get used to the fact there's no black Corvette in the series. And Michael Rossi in the second of the Corvettes, just flashing through the shop, being chased by there Steph Dusseldorf. He's running 10th. Marc Basseng is behind him, running in 11th. That was a little bit of a moment for Dusseldorf, but he caught that one quite nicely. And look at Dumbreck, still not managing to escape the clutches of Lucas Luhr.
Now we've got a bit of a different, you can see at the far end of the circuit after the first turn, the Aston Martins seem to be pretty good up until the first chicane, and then the Nissans after that seem to have that little tiny edge as well. So it's going to be a little bit of cat and mouse, but as I said before, as we get inboard here with the 41, it's really going to be down to having a car with balance, because of the tyre situation for sure. In a couple of laps' time is going to start to take effect.
Bas Linders on the radio, his car, Mark Henrici car, damaged as we saw on the opening lap, but he's still keeping an eye on what's happening with that other car. Max Martin there is running in 8th position, so that could still be on for a decent result. Nissan 1-2, Aston Martin 3-4, Corvette 5, then Nissan, Lamborghini and Ford. That's how our top 8 looks in the early stages, very early stages of the qualifying race from Paul Ricard, as the cars sweep down to the bottom end of the circuit through these tight little sections, through Hotel and Camp, the left-hander, and then through this tight right, which starts to bring them onto the Mistral straight, but they've got to get good traction out of the next corner. Now let's look at the start once again here, Johnny, and there were a few shortcuts being taken, weren't there?
Yeah, well, at the beginning we see the two Nissans, the two Aston Martins, no problem. A little bit further back we then see, there you go, this two Fords and a Corvette, I think it is, going across a little extra bit of track. I think this is where we see it all happen. Oh, there you go.
That was, yeah,
straight
that was
across.
47 Corvette. That was Michael Rossi had to take to the escape area there.
Absolutely. Oh, that was a big punt. Oh, that's why he went wide, yeah. Oh, one again. Oh, dear.
That was on, yeah, looking from the Corvette point of view. Now, then we saw that Ford colliding to the side of the Nissan. That took out one of the Belgian Fords.
Yeah.
The other one came through. I don't know what happened to the other one.
Came in,
Mike Hazelman's in the middle there, keeping an eye. Hope, sort of thankful that his car got through all that without too many problems. Having a laugh about it. And oh no, that is the that's been a big shunt there for the Hexis car. I think that's the number 3 car of Dusseldorf, and that is
safety car. I think
a big old shunt. He's hit the barrier pretty hard somewhere, and there he is getting out the tall, lanky frame of Steph Dusseldorf.
Good to see.
Well, all this safety area, Paul Ricard, still possible to hit the barrier, isn't it? No gravel traps here. It's all about the high abrasive surface on the blue, and then the particularly extra abrasive surface red stripe. But he has gone off somewhere.
Sure. Be nice to see where as well, because obviously with all this runoff area.
Yeah, I think it's on. I think it's going on to the Mistral. Looking at our map, I think it might be going on to through the Kink, maybe. It goes on to the Mistral straight. We'll try and get another look at it in a minute.
Sure, if it's there actually. Is it the exit of the...
Yeah, I'm just trying to check our maps, and we'll get another view of it in a moment. Let me just tell you that in the early stage... Look, there it is, look. Is that through...
No, I think that's a chicane.
Right, yeah, well... it does look like down towards the chicane, yeah, so... Steph Dusseldorf, he's out, he's got the helmet off, he's okay.
You see the barrier there, actually, yes.
Hit the barrier pretty hard, isn't it?
Pretty hard there, yes.
So safety car out in the early stages. There will be no pit entry in this section of the race because the pit window is not open yet, so there's no chance for drivers to be swapped over. So everybody will just follow the safety car. It'll close them all up. Car 3 hit uncurred, exit of turn 7. Just looking at our friend. So it is the Kink, actually. I think it is the Kink onto the straight that he's hit the barrier.
Yep.
So this area here, isn't it? Let's just see.
No, I think it's the exit of the chicane, I believe.
Okay. Just watch them as they go up straight.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So it's after the Kink, and whether there was contact with another car or what, but he has smitten the barrier very, very hard in that Aston Martin. So
well, you're just going up to about 5th gear there, so you're pretty much tramping on as far as speed is concerned. So that's quite a big old whack.
And that, you were telling me that Kink is sort of flat out usually.
Yeah, it is flat normally, yes. And again, the runoff area, the curb is there, but the curb is not very big, it's quite flat. So for the car to actually turn sort of left would be a bit of a surprise. It's possible, of course, but a bit of a surprise. Maybe there was a little bit of a racing incident there, maybe. But it's a funny place to go. But at least he got out of the car, which is nice to see.
A couple of cars being investigated, for instance, on the first lap. Cars 10, 20 and 40 are all under investigation. That's one of the Belgian Fords, the Nissan. Let's go and hear from the Hexis team, see if they can tell us any more about the incident.
Clivio, can you update us on what's happened out there?
Actually, right now we still don't know what's going on, but all I know is he went off at the track where it's the worst and he clipped the barrier, and the car is in a pretty bad shape right now, so we are looking to see what happened, but at the moment we don't know.
Thank you.
So, yeah, Clivio doesn't know much more than we do, and until Steph gets back, he's not going to be able to find out much, I shouldn't think. But the good news is, as I say, that Steph's out of the car, and he'll be able to report back. Let's hope that they can get the car fully repaired for the championship race come tomorrow. So, the field coming on around, Dumbreck leading from Lohr and Muller, the two Astons, Muller and Turner running 3rd and 4th. Zuber in the Corvette is in 5th place, Brabham in another Nissan in 6th, then Schwager, Martin, Rossi in 9th, Basseng is 10th, Piccini in the other Hexis cars 11th, Benoldi, who's involved in that incident on the opening lap down at the chicane and is under investigation. All 3 cars that were involved are under investigation, but he's still running in 12th place. Henrici's in 13th, actually, with that car that got damaged. I think he stayed out there, you know the Ford GT didn't actually come in, did he? I sort of assumed he would be coming in, but he hasn't been into the pits yet. He's in the background. Oh, he's coming in now, I think I just saw him.
Looked like it, didn't it?
Yeah, heading into pit lane. Our commentary position is right down the bottom end of pit lane, so it's a little bit difficult to see, but yeah, he has come in the pits. I can tell you he has just come into the pits to try and effect some repairs, and they might as well, because under safety car he can hopefully have a bit of repair work done and then get back out again without losing too much time.
No, precisely, because obviously the cars are going slow on track. He can fix it, they've got a bit more time, and he could hopefully catch them up before we do a restart.
So, GT1 World Championship, the battle of the brands, these famous supercar brands that are going into contest against one another. You've got Nissan up top at the moment, Aston Martin. There is the damage to the Ford, one of our big brands, Lamborghini, Corvette, all involved in this series, but a lot of damage to the front end bodywork there. The question is, maybe it hasn't gone right back into the chassis and suspension, but can they change that front end and get it back out without losing a lap? That would certainly be their target.
Yeah, the front splitter there, which is that sort of lower big sort of shelf there, isn't damaged, which is quite a important part for the aerodynamics. So that looks as if that part of it's got away with it. That hasn't. There we go.
Let's see if we can see what happened. Looking from the Lamborghini ahead at the Aston.
Oh, there you go. Well, he's just on the curbs. You see the car bounce, and then it just basically turns left or starts to slide, and then it gets in that sort of funny angle of you're still on the power, and the car just shoots left. So it was just not a mistake. It was just he was on the curb, and the car just lost its rear end grip and sort of
unusual.
Voided. Yeah, very unusual. You see now he goes on. This is quite normal on the curbs. There's a couple of bounces, and then it goes left. So obviously it gets a bit of wheel spin, and the car then turns sharply left.
Odd one that, because normally you'd sort of see a driver getting into a bit of trouble and then trying to sort it out, but well, that's very interesting. Boss of the young driver team there, keeping a close eye on what's going on with his cars. They're running third and fourth at the moment, so he should be fairly happy. Alex Muller running third, Darren Turner in fourth. They're their two cars shadowing the Nissans at the moment. All of the cars, of course, getting a chance to run in the cars gently, not overheating anything, so this will certainly look after their tyres. But as they're all in much the same boat with tyre wear, that shouldn't make too much difference. A little bit of flapping something on the back of Jan Claire's car. He did come in the pits, remember. Still in the pits is Mark Henrici. Oh, he's out the car, so it looks as though it's all over. That's a great shame. We wondered if he might...
Pushing into the Aston Martin.
He's trying to explain what happened. No reaction from anybody else?
Well, he was saying he got pushed into the Aston Martin, so we can see down the inside.
Well, I can't see him actually getting a push from anybody there.
Not really.
Maybe
no.
he was talking about the first corner. Maybe he's talking about a separate incident. He sort of went for the move down the inside. He was always going to be pretty tight in there.
Absolutely. Well, he was down the inside. And then there was three cars trying to go for the same bit of tarmac.
Yeah, tricky one, that. Hard to portion blame, because they all had to turn in eventually, didn't they?
Eventually, absolutely.
So really just a bit of a racing incident, but unfortunate that it's accounted for him. It also seems to have accounted for one of the Belgian cars. The ex-Nygaard car, I'm not quite sure what happened to that, though. It's still in the pits, hasn't done any laps. And but I didn't see what it was involved in, because I think that was a separate incident altogether.
Well, there was something on the first corner, wasn't there? So maybe there was some other contact we didn't quite catch, but that's the only thing I can see. There was nothing else other than the first corner and the chicane, really.
So we've still got safety car out while they collect the Aston Martin of Stef Dusseldorp from the side of the road, where it's hit the barrier hard in that rather strange looking incident where the back end of the car slipped out, but the leaders across the line. And let's go down to the pits. We've got the two Nissans running up front. So are these two teammates' cars allowed to race? That's always going to be an interesting one to wonder about. Is Peter Tambrecht and Lucas Luhr? They're up there, 1 and 2. Can they race? Let's go and ask that question of the team boss.
James, will you be telling the boys to race?
Absolutely. Our drivers always race. It's best for the fans, best for the team, and best for the drivers.
Thank you, James.
A very straightforward answer there from James. Yeah, they're going to race. We saw it. They certainly were racing at Portimao when both cars were right up there. And, of course, then the Westbrook-Dunbrett car had a gear change problem, and they couldn't hang on up front anymore when the 23 car went through. So they're going to be racing. But do bear in mind that today's the qualifying race. Tomorrow's the main race when the big points are on offer. And that's really what they're all looking at.
Oh, absolutely. But I think we saw an interview with Richard Westbrook earlier on, and he was talking about that sort of competitive spirit that you have with the team. And as drivers, yes, you want to beat your fellow competitors, especially your other teammates. And again, this is a situation that's exactly what we've got. And it's great to see that they are allowed to race, because this is what it's all about. This is called motorsport, and racing is the name of the game.
Yeah, but woe betide them if they take each other off. James would not be happy.
No. Yeah, well, that's where these drivers shouldn't really get themselves in that situation.
Yeah. OK, we saw Mark Henrici getting out of his stricken Ford a few moments ago, and I think Haley's managed to go and grab him.
Mark, disappointing race for you, but still another race to go.
Yes, was really disappointing. I got a big hit in the first corner, and then I touched the Aston Martin in front of me. I thought everything is okay, but then I wanted to overtake to the chicane, and while braking, the car was unstable in the rear, and then I hit the Nissan, which I feel really sorry, but that was not my intention. The rear was just unstable because of the big crash in the first corner. So that's it. Another part of the bad story this year. But okay, I heard tomorrow it would.
Thank you.
though, Mark, explaining that was interesting. So he'd already had it, that's what he was talking about, already had damage on the car, he thinks, before that incident started, and that's why he lost it and sort of collided into the side of Ben Olby's car. So, hands up from him on the actual accident, but he did feel there was already damage on the car. Lights are out on the safety car. We will be going racing again at the end of the lap. Still a few minutes away from the pit window opening up, so you'll see them go racing once again as Dumbreck leads them around the final turn. They all get a bit held up behind the safety car, but they get on the gas now. No chance for Dumbreck to really make a break. Lights go to green, and it's Dumbreck leading from Lucas Luhr with Alex Muller in third, Darren Turner in fourth, then Andy Zuber in fifth place, closing up with the Corvette as they all head down into turn one, and then the Lamborghini just jinking around in the background. That was Dominic Schwager, and he's still looking to stay on terms with this lead group. Then Max Martin, Michael Rossi, Marc Basseng, he's running in 10th place. Andrea Piccini in the Hexis car. You're riding on board with Alex Muller. He sits in third place behind those two Nissans. Now, can Aston Martin do anything to close down these Nissan GTRs?
Well, that was a good little start from him. He's right up the backside there of the Nissan. We go on to the right-hander, which leads onto the Mistral Straight. If he can get a good drive out of here, then he's going to have a good chance of possibly slipstreaming that Nissan. I'm not quite sure if he's close enough, but that's what it is. And then we're involved back with him, but he's not quite close enough.
No, not to overtake. We've got green flags, so they all know they're racing on this lap. And the Nissans are strong on that straight there. Powerful V8 engines motoring them down there. But the V12 Aston Martin staying in the hunt and nimble through the chicane. They are. Alex Muller chased by teammate Darren Turner. Both young driver cars running well in this race. Still chased by the Corvette as well of Andy Zuber, sharing the car with Mike Hasemans this weekend, as he did at Silverstone. And Darren Turner just jinking out a little bit, but these two really just want to concentrate on keeping the Nissans in sight.
Yeah, they do, but Darren obviously knows that. I think he's a bit quicker than his fellow Aston Martin in front, and he want to get in front so he can then have a little go at the Nissan, the two leading Nissans. So it's going to be important for Darren if he can, but for sure it's not going to be easy.
And behind these guys, the Corvette really getting in there once again, on board with Muller. But Darren Turner, who had been hounding Muller a second ago, now's got to watch his own mirrors for the Corvette. Lovely on-board action here with Alex Muller, listening to the throttle application.
Yeah, it's good, Alex. He always seems to be able to get in the corners. The car seems to be very good, and braking, I notice, is very good as well. Now, if he can get close enough and get himself in a position where a nice hard braking situation comes up, he may be able to slip by, but as always, he needs to be in the right position. But at the same time, of course, these drivers are always thinking about how they've got to look after the tyres, because how quickly these things can go off. But I think we're in that, coming up to that window, which is going to probably make it a little bit different for this stint, but the next stint is obviously going to be interesting.
I'll have next drive will have a new set of tyres to play with, so I guess these guys can, having been behind safety car, can sort of nail it a little bit now. They haven't got too many laps to go before the pit stop. Back on board with Alex Muller, shadowing the two Nissans, looking to try and see where his car might have a little more strength. In the background, Turner under attack from Andy Zuber and David Brabham, who's in that hunt as well, followed by Dominic Schwager in the Lamborghini. And it's so interesting how fortunes change in GT1. Last time out at Navarra, the Lamborghinis were just so quick and able to get in front and run 1-2. It's not the same story. Brabham down the inside of Zuber, and he's got the place back from the Corvette. Lost a place earlier on, he's gained it back, and behind him the Lamborghini and the Ford still chasing of Schwager and Martin. You're on board here with Max Martin sharing the car this weekend with Fred Makovicky.
Absolutely good move with David. Important that he got past, because with that window that's coming up now, that's made it a lot easier for the team to be able to get a bit of speed now and actually close the gap to the Aston Martin in front. And I think with that pass, now he's got a good opportunity to close that gap.
Interesting, we've got front engine cars running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Seems to be the layout here, front engine rear wheel drive, doesn't it?
It does seem to be, and it's something that obviously the balance obviously works for these cars very, very well. And it's good that these guys are actually utilising that, which is nice to see.
Brabham having got that place, he's still under pressure from Zuber. Remember, it was this section of the circuit where Zuber nipped past him, but Brabham not allowing it to happen on this occasion. So they come around to complete another lap. That's still 39 minutes to go. Brabham did it on the inside, neat and tidy.
Absolutely. No, lovely move. beautiful balances the inboard, and he just you can see he's there. He knows what he needs to do. Gets to the side of it, doesn't sort of push himself too much, doesn't run too wide, which was very sensible. Then enables him to actually get onto the power, going back out of that chicane.
So up front, it's Peter Dumbreck leading from Lucas Luhr, both of them matching one another pretty closely, although Dumbreck's just had a good sector there. He's just opened it up a fraction on this last lap. Third place, Aston Martin of Alex Müller has also seen the gap increase to himself, between himself and the Nissans. He's got Darren Turner close behind, chased now by David Brabham, and as we've seen the Nissan working well, I wonder whether David can try and repeat the manoeuvre he did just now on the Corvette, but this time on the Aston Martin as they go for the chicane.
I'm sure he's going to try. I think it's the biggest gap we've seen, hasn't it, with the two Nissans. They've been able to pull away that a little bit easier on this sort of restart. So obviously their cars are feeling very good at the moment, and they seem to have that consistency and pace to just pull that gap away, which is good for them.
Meanwhile, Schwager and Max Martin, Lamborghini versus Ford GT, both mid-engine. One the V12 Murcielago, the other the V8 powered Ford GT, and the Ford team were a little nervous in the early part of the week. They wouldn't get their engines in time from America, where they are rebuilt, but they got them, and here we are on board with the Ford of Max Martin, and just a couple of minutes away now from the pit window opening up, where we will see a hive of activity in pit lane, which could well determine this race, because they are still running very close to one another because of the safety car period a little while ago. 7th and 8th. You can see the Ford has been a fraction faster on the last couple of laps than the Lamborghini, but hasn't found a way past. And there's the Corvette Nissan battle still going on. You know, Zupa's not giving up on getting it back again.
Oh, absolutely not. No, well, we always know this Corvette is always so well balanced in the corners, and I think we're just seeing that. He's always on the back of David into the corners, and then David is unable just to spread it out, especially on this sort of first part of the circuit, and then on the second part of the circuit it seems to be as if the Corvette can then just sort of come back a little bit, but it hasn't been quite close enough. We see that gap again with David has actually looked got a bit bigger. As I said before, on this part of the circuit David seems to have a good car.
Two Nissans running away a little bit now, and Lucas Luhr was a fraction quicker than Dumbreck on the last lap. Not much, just a fraction, but they are easing away from the Astons behind, and then from this car of David Brabham.
Yeah, well, they seem to have a sort of about half a second, 4/10, half a second advantage over the two Aston Martins, which is why we're seeing that gap slowly get bigger.
If anything, the Nissans are coming into their own now. As you say, both the lead cars and the Brabham car are suddenly showing a good turn of pace compared to the others. So they're looking after their tyres, which is perhaps not what we necessarily expected, but the Nissan team has, both Sumo Power and JRM have done so much work on these cars to continually develop them, and they're looking strong at the moment. There's Alex Müller in 3rd place, then Darren Turner under threat from David Brabham. You can see how every other driver now in pit lane's getting ready for those crucial stops as the clock ticks to 35 to go. Pit window will open and we'll see a real rush in pit lane here. It's a longish lap here, laps up time over 2 minutes, so not so many laps around this circuit, but the pit window opening up very soon. On board with Brabham once again.
Yeah, we see Brabham. This is the double right-hander at Bessat, and it's a very difficult one, especially here. It's sort of a little dip, and you get a bit of understeer, and then it grips again, and it picks up front-end grip, but very hard on the tyre. But David there seems to be able to place the car very nicely, which is good for the change of driver, which is coming up very shortly.
It is, yeah, we're only a few seconds away. The pit crews are all prepared in pit lane. Are we going to see the two leaders in on this lap? Oh, it's tight. Pit window just opens. So in a way they couldn't, because they would have crossed the white line. These guys behind are able to come straight into the pits. That's sort of the luck of the draw in a way. And you can see Bernoldi coming in at the earliest opportunity. He's been feeling very poorly this weekend, so he'll be relieved to get the car in and hand it over to Nicky Katzberg. But in has come the Aston Martin of Alex Müller. Thomas Enger now will take over that car. Also into the pits we've seen the Hexis Aston Martin of Piccini going to Hohenadel. And we've also got there the Schwager car. Nicky Pastorelli is now taking over that car.
I think that was a good move with Alex coming in there and changing over to Thomas, because I think they need that little bit of grip, and they're going to get that with this tyre change, which is going to be good now. Hopefully Thomas can do a real big push, and then maybe he can just close that gap down for when the Nissans actually come in to do their pit stop.
I think the 37 car didn't have as quick a stop as sometimes there. I think they lost out to Hexis. As ever, Hexis are so fast on their pit stops, and I think they've got the number 4 car out ahead of them. So they might only have the 1 car left in this race, but Hexis haven't given up on trying to gain places. Look how close Lucas Lohr is making sure he is to the back of race leader Peter Dumbreck, because he does not want to be any further behind when they come into the pit lane. Back on board with David Brabham, with the pit stops running through now. He's up to 4th, but remember, it's partly because of the pit stops being taken by other cars. We've seen the other Aston in, and he's still chasing the Darren Turner car here.
Yeah, which has upped its pace a little bit since Alex Muller came into the pits. They allowed a free track, and he's actually done his best lap on that previous lap. So obviously he's been able to up his speed. Not quite as quick as the front Nissans, but at least he's improved his speed. But obviously we'll see when they actually come into the pits.
Stefan Mucker getting ready to take over from Darren Turner. We saw him there. Are we going to see all these guys in on this lap? You would think that's quite likely. Are the 2 Nissans going to pit together, or will one of them do an extra lap? Lead car in, Dumbreck comes in to hand over to Westbrook, Lucas Lohr. Now, Lucas will be trying to put in the fastest lap so far in this race. He does already have fastest lap. Tyres have been a bit more worn now. Also in comes Darren Turner, so does David Brabham, to hand over to Jamie Campbell-Walter. And
Lucas Lohr needs to push in this lap, because he may get that advantage to be able to come out in front, so he needs to really push.
That's right, so the work goes on at both Young Driver and at JR Motorsports to turn these cars around as quickly as possible. Remember, Dumbreck had a reasonably good advantage, but not by much over his teammate, but his teammate's not come in yet. They released a little bit slow, is it? Just getting away, but he still seems to have a pretty good edge. Now in the background, Jamie Campbell-Walter just getting in front of the Corvette, so I think that stayed the same. Of course, they were very close together when it was Brabham and Zuber, and now it's going to be Jamie Campbell-Walter versus Mike Hazemans. Out comes Richard Westbrook. The Aston, after the earlier change, still the same way round. Enger ahead there of Stefan Mucker.
Yeah.
Oh, and there the Hexis Aston getting in front of the Corvette. And that's actually the other Corvette. Okay, that's the Rossi Engelbert Corvette, so that one doesn't sort of apply in quite the same way. And I think, in fact, we'll check that in a moment. Yeah, no, that is the Hazemans car, isn't it? That is the Hazemans car, so we'll check that in a moment. So, waiting to take over from what is now the lead car is Michael Krum. The big question, will it be the lead car after this pit stop?
Well, on that lap, he hasn't done anything spectacular on that. On this lap that he's on at the moment. It's not his quickest. There's no greens on there, which is normally his best sectors, so it's going to be tight. I don't think it's going to be enough, though.
There's a little internal rivalry in the teams. They've got a bit of a competition, well, in addition to what there always is, to who gets the fastest out lap after a pit stop. They all check their times rigorously. Into the pits comes the race leader then, and Lucas Lohr will have tried to do his best on that lap. Has he done enough after this pit stop to get the car out ahead of Richard Westbrook, who is now on board the number 22 Nissan? This is the crucial battle in this race then. Don't forget, the Astons were not far behind, so if they have a slow pit stop, then they could be in danger of losing not only the lead, but maybe second or even third places. Also in the pits, the championship leading Lamborghini, but could well lose the championship lead here this weekend if the Nissans, particularly the Krum Lohr car, keep up this sort of pace. So everyone hard at work, just the 2 guys on each car, whizzing round, trying to grab hold of those wheels. Away that goes Michael Krum. That looked like a pretty rapid stop. Where is Westbrook? Here he comes.
It definitely seemed to get away as soon as the wheels went down. It seemed to be really quick out of the box itself.
And it's going to be a very well, how did he do that? That was an incredibly quick stop. And Westbrook will see that. He won't believe that. He might have expected to be shadowing it as it came out. But they have gained a couple of seconds, 3 seconds on that pit stop. That was remarkable. And the Krum Lohr team have really set an amazing pace in the pit stops there. Look at this. Jamie Campbell-Walter fighting hard with Christian Hohenadel. This is for 8th place, and he's got a chance.
Got a chance here. It's a very difficult right-hander coming up, but I think he's got the inside line. As long as he doesn't run wide, no, it's looking good. Good move there by Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie Campbell-Walter likes overtaking cars here at Paul Ricard. We saw him do it last year, and he's gained 1 there as well. So that will pull him up into 8th position now, and he's going on a charge and chasing after. The next target that he will have is, let's take a look, he's going to be going after Stefan Mucker in the Aston Martin next. And yeah, we've got to still wait for a couple of cars to have finished their round of pit stops, and we'll sort of sort out the order a little bit more here. But as they come through, he's still being chased by the Aston. The Aston's having a go at getting back down the inside. Oh, he just manages to hold him off. And Hohenadel almost got Jamie Campbell-Walter back at the chicane there. Look how close they're running.
That is great, isn't it? It's lovely to see this real battles of the marks appearing in front of us, and it's good because no one seems to be giving up. Even if they lose a place, they try and fight back as quickly as they can to get it back.
Final pit stop being made by the number 47 car. This is the Rossi Engelbert car. So they left Rossi out for quite a while there, but they've still done it within the allocated time, and they'll get him back out now as we watch still Jamie Campbell-Walter with Christian Hohenadel. You're on board with Hohenadel right behind him, and these guys trying to gain a position if possible as we're into the second half of this race now. And
sort of closes the gap a little bit under the braking, but doesn't quite sometimes have the traction. It seems a little bit loose at the moment.
Look at how Westbrook has caught. He's caught. He's going for the lead. Westbrook, where did he get all that pace from?
Well, he's out. His outlap was fantastic. It's the fastest lap maybe of the race. I'm not sure it was the fastest lap. Well, yes, it was. It was the fastest lap of the race.
Lucas Luhr could hardly believe the fact that Westbrook was right on Michael Krum as they came over the line. Look at this. Look at this. Michael Krum, who had a big lead coming out of the pits. Westbrook so nearly had him. In fact, he was ahead of him across the line there. He was recorded as being in front of the Michael Krum car as they came over the line. But, of course, Krum had the inside line turning into turn one. Westbrook had to slot in behind him again.
Sure.
But my goodness,
he's closed that gap down wonderfully. Well, this is going to be interesting now, because obviously the pressure on Michael to keep in front, but he can see that Richard has absolutely done a storming first lap. So now it's going to be down to who can.
Well, this is proper
outside
racing.
The other one, absolutely.
Proper racing between the two Nissans.
Now Michael's going to be tight there, so really it's now to Richard if he can get drive out of this corner to get a chance. It doesn't seem maybe he's not quite got enough here, but all he's got to do is just keep that pressure on Michael, because you never know, he may just make him push himself into a mistake. You're not going to do it there, Richard. Yeah, just show him everything.
Not really possible into seeing the braking such a short distance, but look at how the Aston is catching. You know, I don't think Michael Krum's very happy on these tyres or something, because he's just not able to lap at the pace you might have expected. The Aston is getting closer in behind as well. That is Thomas Enger behind them. Oh, and Richard's there a little bit deeper in. Maybe that's just his line. He does have a slightly different line on some of these corners on the latter part of the lap, we notice.
Yeah, especially on this next left.
Yeah. So let's watch him here. It's nerve-wracking stuff for Peter Dumbreck, for the rest of the crew. Very close a moment ago. Krum now seems to sort of be settling into his rhythm a little bit more, but look how Thomas Enger kicks the back end of the Aston out as he comes over, and that is the 1-2-3 at the moment. Krum leads, Westbrook second, Enger in third. Then there's a little bit of a gap back to fourth, which is Stefan Mucker in his Aston, Makovicky fifth. But a good pit stop there, the number 41 Ford. Makovicky fifth, Jamie Campbell-Walter sixth, Hohenadel seventh, and then the Engelbert Rossi Corvette next up. So Darren's car is currently running in fourth. You're on board the third place car, though, of Thomas Enger as he chases down these two Nissans. So similar to the first part of the race when it was Alex Muller in the car, Thomas now finds himself chasing two Nissan GTRs.
Absolutely, this is typical Thomas. This is when he sort of sees a chance, and he's going to try and seize that chance of getting past that 22 Nissan in front of him. Not going to be easy for him. We've seen that the Nissan seems to be very stable. You can see Thomas in that in-ball fighting the steering wheel, so he's having to work very hard to be able to hang on to the back of him. But as we see again, there seems to be a little gap sort of appearing again.
It does, that's right. So are things beginning to settle down here? Is it the fact that you have to go on the attack, as Westbrook did? He set the fastest lap of the race earlier on. Take a look at the pit stop times here, Johnny. Let's just see. Fastest was the number 23 car, which is what we thought. 3 seconds faster. The Michael Krum Lucas Luhr car was 3 seconds faster than the Westbrook dumb Brett car. That's how they managed to swap them around. Well, as they swap them around, I mean, they just went for it, and they came out with a quicker time for the 23 car. 53 seems pretty standard for some of the others. 54 for the Aston number 8 young driver team. So interesting figures there.
Yeah, well, it's a bit surprising. He looked a bit slow. I think I said that when the wheels went down on that 23, it just seemed to shoot out of the pits. Where we saw, and I think I saw your reaction, was when Richard left, it took a bit of time to pop out. But we see the Aston Martin actually did the quickest.
Yeah, further down, the number 4 Hex's car is Hex's as ever.
Again, yes.
Yep, they've got their car up in 7th at the moment with a 49-second stop. That was, I think, the best we've seen so far. Brilliant effort. On board with Thomas Enger then, still in 3rd place. This is the qualifying race, remember, so they need to still get these cars to the finish. They will start the championship race wherever they finish this one. Enger would still be pretty happy with the 3rd place. It's where he started this qualifying race today, and if he could find just a bit more performance tomorrow, perhaps he could put those Nissans under a bit more threat. But certainly at the moment, just seeing the interestingly, I've just seen the Vanina X Christopher Nygaard car going past me in pit lane, and although it sort of didn't do anything at the start of the race, they have sent the car back out again, so obviously they've been sorting a mechanical problem, I should think, on that one. Into the pits there is the number 37 car. Now what's that about? They must have a problem. That is Nicky Pastorelli, and it all looks a bit slow and lazy, and clearly the winner last time out at Navarra is out of this race early on with 22.5 minutes still remaining in the qualifying race, and that will mean start of the back of the grid for tomorrow's championship race for Pastorelli and Schweger. On board with Westbrook. So after that initial challenge, Johnny, as you say, that gap has just stabilised now.
It's certainly, well, it's actually extended, hasn't it,
yeah.
Really? I think, but it's stabilised, extended by the look of it. It just doesn't seem to be quite having the pace, but maybe he's being a little bit shrewd. Maybe he's just thinking, I'm going to try and save my tyres a little bit and do a real hard push in the latter part of this race now. Maybe that would be a clever move. If it's a possible, we'll have to wait and see. But
oh, hang on. Actually, we're just going to go down and hear from. I think we're going to get a chance to hear from Nicky Pastorelli, who's just come into the pits. We saw him talking to Mark Bassing. Let's hear what's gone wrong.
Nicky, unfortunately, the race is over. Can you tell us what's happened?
Yeah, it's too bad. We have an engine failure. We don't know exactly what failed on the engine. So we lost a lot of power. We were really slow, so we decided to commit not to completely blow up the engine and try to solve it for tomorrow.
Thank you.
So disappointing then for the guys that won last time in Navarra, but hopefully they can get that car fixed for tomorrow's race. Yeah, just wondered whether Westbrook, who's just done a great middle sector again, by the way, just wondered whether he put so much effort into catching that the leader, having seen him come out, that it fired him up so much that it maybe took the best out of the tyres. But having said that, he's still lapping very quickly at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think when he got close enough, he could sort of probably, well, maybe I'm only reading into it, maybe he could feel that he didn't quite have enough. The 38 nearly runs a bit wide there into turn 1, but maybe Richard just sort of thinks, well, maybe I've just got to be very clever and sort of save my tyres, because they do go off quite, or can go off quite abruptly at some point in the race, and then he might just sort of think, right, well, I know I can be quick, and then I'll try and do a big push near the end of the race. But Michael Krum has done the fastest lap on lap 16 as well. So at the end of the day, it seems as if Michael's car is pretty much hooked up. They're doing very, very similar times within is that a couple of hundredths of a second, 300th of a second. So it's close, very, very close, and it's just going to be down to that consistency.
Now looking at Jamie Campbell-Walter behind Fred McAvicky here, on board the Nissan with Jamie. Oh, and the Ford was well over the curve there.
Just a bit.
Yeah, did he lose traction? Did lose some performance?
I would say so.
And it looks as though Jamie Campbell-Walter's going to try and do what Warren Hughes did last year and go around the outside at Scene. And yes, he does. Lovely. Oh, he loves that manoeuvre. He'll be real pleased with that, because Warren did that beautifully last year and Jamie was determined to do him back. Well, he did some great moves himself into turn 1, did Jamie, last year, but he'll love that, going around the outside into Scene.
It's great how it's really nice to see how Jamie has matured over the last couple of years. With the races now, he really does do some fantastic overtaking moves, never gives up, and always is in the mix.
Yeah, no, top professional is Jamie, former FIA GT champion, but really it's lovely to see him holding his own in a team of heavyweights, if you like, in that Nissan outfit, and showing what he can do. and he's always got himself in front of the Ford. There he was a touch wide. He's given the Ford a bit of hope that it might be able to challenge back. Fred Makovicky will never give up. He's a real hard racer, always good to watch, but I think the Nissan's just got slightly too strong an engine for the Ford to stay in touch.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. The Ford does struggle on these straights, and you need to be close and be able to follow the car in front and be able to slip by.
Look at the top speeds recorded by the various different marks, and it is Nissan 123 with a 258.4 kilometres an hour, rather I should say, for nearly the 260 kilometre an hour mark. But the fastest thing in a straight line, no doubt about it, is the Nissan. Despite punching a bigger hole in the air than something like this Ford, it still manages to get the highest top speed, so just shows you how much power it's got.
Yeah, that as well, but obviously it does come off the corners very well as well, so it's able to sort of utilise that big push that it needs to carry the speed then down the straight.
And if you look at the Ford, they're down at 251 kilometres an hour. That gives you an idea what they're up against to a certain extent. The Lamborghinis, look, 251, 250, so giving away quite a lot in terms of kilometres an hour to some of those mid-engined cars, which of course have inherently perhaps slightly better balance, but don't have quite that same straight line speed. Remember, these cars are all balanced. A balance of performance is measured and given to each of the car makes. Maybe it's air restrictors, maybe it's the weight of the car, but they are all balanced to try and make the field as competitive as possible. They're not always running in the same form as on the road. Now, what was this? On board with Enger. Oh, Thomas! What are you doing?
That was just a little bit of a slide on the entry, basically. It slid at the back. This is possibly where the tyres are going. What you tend to do as a driver, you adjust the brake balance to try and sort of move it off of the rear to the front to try and help it. But that looked as if it just got a little bit loose under braking. I think he actually had that in the qualifying, wasn't it? Was it the qualifying we saw?
He spun in the qualifying,
That's
but
right.
he managed to hold it this time.
But he did a similar thing in exactly the same corner. So obviously that's one part of it where the rear end of the tyres are just losing that little edge that you need to keep it stable.
Yeah, he was using all these rally driver reactions, I think, on that one. With armfuls of lock to sort it out. Now, back on board with Fred Makovicky. Lovely view from the Ford GT and this beautiful blue sky and sunshine that we're enjoying here at Paul Ricard. Glorious conditions. Is a faint chance of rain tomorrow, looking at your forecast earlier on, Johnny, but who knows?
Thanks for that.
Yeah, well, you know, could make life quite interesting here, but wait and see. We could be on for another beautiful day. But certainly Jamie Campbell-Walter holding on to 5th place here. Let's go and hear from Marc Basseng now.
Mark, it looks like 38 is losing pace. Is it possible that they have the same issues?
It's not the same issue, but it's also an issue with the engine, definitely. Also, we're losing power, and the sounds not really good, not so bad like 37 did, but he has also a bigger problem with the gearbox at the moment, so looks not really good for us at the moment.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, the gearbox is the Achilles heel of the Lamborghini, and that's been the case throughout the season, but they obviously got double problems. There it is. It's running in 9th, which would be okay. I think they'd actually be fairly happy with a 9th place finish, bearing in mind they're not going to be as quick here. It would still put them in 9th on the grid, but will it last the distance? That's the question.
Oh, that is definitely the question, and it's, as you said, the gearbox is always the issue. Maybe the gearbox has been an issue with the engine as well, if it's not quite shifting when it should, or maybe it's shifting when it shouldn't, and that just is giving the engine a little bit of a hard time and just doing a bit of damage, possibly inside.
So on board the number 4 Aston Martin here, it's Christian Hohenadel. They're in the car with Andrea Piccini. They had a great pit stop, the fastest pit stop of anybody, but they're running in 7th place behind Fred Makovicky in the Ford and, of course, the Nissan ahead of Jamie Campbell-Walter. Very little to choose between these 3 cars by the look of it at the moment. And with 15 minutes to go, and the cars in this second stint have been pushed hard throughout. It's not like they had a rest, as the first guys did with the safety car. These tyres have been pushed right from the outlet at absolutely flat-out pace, and Makovicky again closing up, but not on the straight. He can close up through the corners, but then he's got the problem of trying to get alongside the Nissan.
Yeah, well, this is where the Nissan maybe this is this sort of tyre situation. Although he's got the speed down the straight, struggling a little bit through the corners, and we know the Ford is very light on its tyres, but he can't pass, or can't be in the right position where he needs to be, which is close up as you go into the braking area, because he's not quick enough down the straight. So it's going to be a very, very hard race for him, or a long 14 minutes we've got left.
Yeah, that's right. For him it could be, but it makes it entertaining for us, doesn't it? With the three cars very close together, battling for 5th place here, 5th, 6th and 7th. As up front, let me just tell you that Michael Krum's advantage is still pretty narrow, but it's 2 seconds over Richard Westbrook in 2nd place. Thomas Enger is still in 3rd. Stefan Mucker is in 4th. It's still Nissan 1-2. There's a move up the inside.
Oof,
oh,
that was close.
That was close. Christian Hohenadel having a real go up the inside to get past Makovic. Didn't happen. So just to come back, it's 2 Nissans, 2 Astons, another Nissan of Campbell Walter 5th, then the Ford of Makovic 6th, 7th, well nearly 6th a moment ago, was Hohenadel. Engelbert in the other Corvette is running 8th, Winkelhock is 9th, and Katzberg in the Nissan is in 10th place. Max Martin, teammate of Fred Makovic, I wonder what he makes of this battle.
Max, what would you do to take the Nissan if you can't get him on the straight line?
I think it's quite nearly impossible for us in the straight. They have too much engine, so for us it's impossible to pass. When we are alone, we have a good car, we can go good lap times, but when we are behind somebody, it's impossible for us.
Thank you.
So, a slightly resigned expression, but on the other hand, you never know, there might be a little error at some point that they can take advantage of. Just noticed, by the way, you know, we were talking about the Lamborghini number 37 having, 38 rather, having engine problems, gearbox problems possibly. Marcus Winkelhock just set his own fastest lap, not the fastest lap of the race, but his own personal best. So it can't be that bad.
I don't think so. No, it can't be that bad if he's doing it at this stage of the race for sure. So now it seems a little bit strange that they seem to have a problem. Maybe it's just a problem that's sort of just coming in and then it's sort of okay for a couple of laps and then comes back in. That's a possibility, I guess.
Yeah, always the worst sort of problem in a way. Back on board with Makovic then. Didn't race at Navarra because he had other duties, and his place was taken by Bertrand Baguette, Indy 500 racer, who acquitted himself extremely well in the Ford GT, I have to say. Made a couple of lovely moves up into the final hairpin, gained one place particularly there nicely, but Makovic is a bit of a star of GT1, whether he was driving for Aston Martin last year or in the Ford this year. He's always exciting to watch. Frenchman on home turf here, of course, at Paul Ricard, so a little bit of honour at stake in trying to get past Jamie Campbell-Walter in the Nissan, and there's still a bit of time in which to do it, so we'll see whether Jamie can withstand the pressure from Makovic. He comes from the southwest of France, in fact, so he's not too far away from Ricard, but he is further west from here. And then behind him we've still got that French run Aston Martin, but at the moment it's Christian Hohenadel who's at the wheel, and the man who won the GT3 championship last year and had victories here at Paul Ricard, hoping to try and gain a few places. But they don't take too many risks at this stage of a qualifying race, because they've probably already got their minds a little bit thinking forward to the championship race tomorrow when the main points are on offer. You can get points for the top positions in this race, down to 6th you'll get a point, but tomorrow you get points all the way down to 10th and a lot more of them. So a bit silly to really make a gamble at this stage in the qualifying race to gain 1 place when on the grid tomorrow you might gain 3 places into the first corner. So you do have to think about that a little bit. So there's your race leader. What's the gap now? It is Michael Krum leading by 3.4.
Yeah, well, the lap times, there seems to be about half a second difference at the moment. So at the moment, they just seem to be able to just edge away. Michael's doing a nice, consistent job, and Richard can't really do anything about it at the moment.
No, he threw everything he had at it on the outlap, didn't he?
He did.
Very impressive. I couldn't believe he managed to close up as much as he did. But ultimately, Michael Krum held on to the lead. There is the 38 Lamborghini. I mentioned a good lap from Winkelhock last time around. Not bad this time either. So they've got concerns, but they're still holding on to 9th. And he's actually caught that Corvette a little bit, I think, over the last lap or so. Not much to choose between them in lap time, but, you know, Marcus Winkelhock's a fighting driver, as we've seen already. Qualifying this morning, it looked as though, if anything, he was fighting the car a bit too hard, but maybe they've changed the car a little bit, and he's actually going pretty well here.
It seems as if they have, because the car seems to be pretty consistent at the moment. The stability of the car doesn't look so bad from what I've seen, so they've obviously done a little bit of tinkering with the car, and it seems to be paying off at the moment.
But they're not fast in a straight line, as we saw from the speed trap figures, so if you're not, here we are on board with Winkelhock. He's got a good run going. Does he go for it down the inside? He does. Great on the brakes, and yeah, he's got the Corvette. The Corvette is forced to go in really deep. Winkelhock makes the move.
And a good move it was. He sort of had that lovely slipstream, got the drive out onto the Minstrel straight, and was able to slip by very nicely. A very nice move.
Yeah, and nice smile on Mark Bassain's face. He admired that one. His teammate delivered the goods there. That's gave them another place on the grid for tomorrow's championship race. And Winkelhock putting in, as I say, good set of laps at the moment. Let's take another look at this, Johnny.
Well, just very nicely done. He was comfortably up the inside, ran a little bit wide, but the corner was already his, and was able then to go through that right-hander. This is the actual slipstream. Just gets a nice amount of slipstream, pulls out at the right time, just before the break-in, down the inside, through the gears, no problem. A little bit wide, but no worries at all. That was a bit of a cat and mouse game of who was going to break the last.
Bassain, well impressed with that. A little shake of the head. OK, now what's going on here? Still this race for 5th. Jamie Campbell-Walter in the white and black Nissan. Fred Makovicky on board the Mark VDS Ford GT, punching his way down through the gears. And still tucked in behind them, ready to take advantage, is Christian Hohenadel in the Hexis Aston Martin, as they sweep their way around this unique circuit, the Paul Ricard track, with these bizarre stripy lines everywhere, which are...
Oh, David, run wide now.
Jamie, where are you going? You're not meant to be using that bit of track.
And he's got a little advantage through that.
He has. I mean, he probably won't get done for it, but...
It's not going to make it easier for Fred behind him there.
Didn't gain a place, but he certainly gained a bit of time.
He certainly gained some little comfort. Little comfort. But it seems as if Fred has got a good car underneath him, so I'm sure he's going to be able to close the gap. But that's obviously not going to make it any easier for him, because obviously he's got to work again to close the gap.
So into the chicane, a chicane of one of many. There's well over 100 different layouts of circuit they have here.
Really struggling, it seems. They're sort of straight on him through the corner. The corners, the Nissan seems to be really struggling there, and he doesn't seem to be having the grip that he needs. He's got the speed down the straight once again. That gap goes ahead. Fred's very good through this seam corner here. He doesn't do a shift down. Seems to be able to sort of get a bit of power out. You just see he runs wide there, and he just runs wide, and then decides, right, I'm going to go left here.
Well, it is the advantage of having no gravel traps and just having these highly abrasive blue and red areas, is that if you do get it wrong, you can cut the corner off and you don't find yourself, you know, up to your axles in gravel. But it helped him in that case, didn't it?
It certainly did.
So Makovicky, as you said, has sort of closed that gap up fairly quickly again, but whether he can actually then find a way through. So we've got around 6.5 minutes to go, and it's looking as though we're going to have a Nissan 1-2, but it's still a big task here for Jamie Campbell-Walter to hold on to 5th place from the attack behind. Now, also, you've got a possible situation for 2nd here.
I was just looking at screen. It does seem as if Thomas at the moment is... Thomas Eng is closing the gap on Richard Westbrook in front of him.
Yeah, look at
we say.
Gaps have closed up.
It was a big one at the lap 23 there. It was 7/10. It's a hell of an amount there.
Massive gain.
Close that, yeah.
So Enger is bearing down on Richard Westbrook for 2nd position here.
So that's 2 Nissans we can see actually struggling. So we can see Richard's obviously having a bit of a struggle, but we can also see that with Jamie Campbell-Walter a bit further back as well. Seems to be losing speed. So now they've just got to be, it's one of those situations you've just got to really concentrate of not making errors, and if you don't make errors, it's going to make it that much harder for the guys behind to actually overtake you.
That was Mike Hazeman's Corvette in the pits, and it's had troubles from soon after the pit stops. I'm not quite sure what happened, but they dropped well down. They'd made an extra pit stop already. They've now come in for their 3rd pit stop, so whatever's happened to them sadly has meant them out of the running. Because shame, because Andy Zuber was right in the mix with these guys in the top 6 earlier on, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, we see that split there with Michael Krim and Richard Westbrook, and they're actually about a second a lap different actually in lap times. I think Michael's doing 2:06.0 and Richard is 2:07.3, so there's a big difference and a big drop off from Richard, which is enabling to Thomas to take the fight to Richard, which is going to be fascinating, because it's all going to be down to concentration, consistency and not making mistakes. But Thomas, old fox he is, he'll be putting in as much pressure as he possibly can on Richard.
Yeah, this could be a nice little run to the flag from these two. You do wonder, Michael, of course, Krum, his outlap for the pits didn't seem that hard because the gap was closed up. Westbrook, meanwhile, was on an absolute mighty charge. Krum maybe sort of went out gently on his tyres and then almost miscalculated because Westbrook was so quick he almost got past him. But maybe that initial outlap from Krum was sort of purposefully gentle, I don't know, and he's made the tyres last.
Because it was his sort of following, I think, second or third lap, he actually did then the fastest lap of the race, but of course then the tyres are a little bit more warmed up.
Let's see if we can find any more from Richard's teammate in pit lane.
Peter, it seems that Richard is losing pace out there.
Sorry,
It seems that Richard might be losing pace out there.
Yeah, this is, as I said, you know, all weekend, this is the track that the tyres suffer the most on, and it looks like his pressures are a little bit high now. So it's a thing we need to correct for tomorrow, and hopefully he can hang on in second place and we can get it right tomorrow.
Well, he's certainly going to have to hang on because Enger's even closer. Of course, if he lost the position, it wouldn't be a total disaster. It would be one place back on the grid. He wouldn't be on the front row alongside his teammate, but again, he won't want to lose that opportunity if at all possible. Enger here, he would love to start up front. Of course, winner of the qualifying race at Silverstone and came so close to winning the Tourist Trophy, did Enger and Alex Muller, but only to be denied by Michael Krum and Lucas Luhr in the Nissan. And I think Thomas would like revenge for that one.
He's definitely going to try, that's for sure. He would never give up. That's one thing he's never done. And I don't think that's going to go away from him.
We've just seen on the screen, the car number 21, that is Jamie Campbell-Walter, has a drive-through penalty. Not sure what it's for yet, but Jamie Campbell-Walter has a drive-through.
Oh, I'm going to guess. I wonder if that was that sort of through the chicane advantage.
Maybe.
Gained, maybe, I don't know.
That would be harsh, though. A drive-through for that would be pretty harsh. And he's actually dropped back behind the Ford. He's already lost a place to the Ford, and he's about to lose a place to the Aston of Hohenadel. So that means that Makovicky is up into 5th place now. Jamie Campbell-Walter's been told about the drive-through, so he probably hasn't bothered to fight as hard as he would have done. Let's just see. This was Makovicky going past him.
Yeah, I think he's going to slip up the inside there. He's made him go tight, and then and then Fred's got the drive out of that tight right-hand corner and gets in front. So it's a good move there, but obviously Jamie now, he's going to lose a good 20 seconds or so in the pits through that.
It's going to hurt. I mean, it's late in the race, so he's not got everybody bearing down on him, but even so, it's a lot of time to just sort of sit on that speed limiter down the pit lane. Yeah, that's a real shame for them. We've got Westbrook still versus Enger on board with Thomas Enger.
Oh, they were both. Yeah, I thought he was going to run a bit wide there, but he didn't quite do that. But the pressure that he's under now is pretty immense, because when you always know that it's Thomas Enger in the car, it's something that you're going to think, my crikey, you know this guy's not going to give up. Yeah. And he's going to be harassing me for the rest of this race.
But we've not got much time to go. The clock is ticking away, and we are about to get towards the end of this race. Enger getting very close there as he bobbles over the curb. But again, no way through.
Bit too much curb there, I think. That bobble you saw, they made him run a bit wide, and he couldn't get the proper line to get the drive out onto this long straight up to the seam corner here, which is a big, fast right-hander. But he gets close to him here. His braking seems to be something that he utilises. There we go, he's getting closer again. He's not going to get up the inside there.
Westbrook's covered the inside. He's made well sure of that.
Yeah. Now, there is a chance here. I don't think he's got enough drive there, but there is a chance. Now, Richard just held enough.
What was that? Gear up, gear down?
I don't know what it was.
That was a slightly odd one there, but Enger's really throwing himself into this tussle with Richard Westbrook.
Well, I think what he needs to do is actually get from that chicane in that Minstrel straight. If he can get the drive out, and then he will actually get the drive up the straight through Scene. He seems to be very good under braking into that Basak corner, the double right-hander, and then from that he might get an opportunity, and this is his final lap to try.
Yep, so up front it's Michael Krum heading for victory with an 8.3 second lead over this battle for second between Richard Westbrook and Thomas Enger, two wily campaigners. Now Jamie Campbell-Walter, has he done his drive-through yet? I'm not sure he has, actually.
He hasn't.
That's a bit odd. So, I mean, if it is in the last stages of the race, they can add a time penalty instead.
Yeah.
So
he might do a drive-through on this lap, you see.
Well, it might do, yeah, sometimes. I'm not sure if they're...
I do remember Michael Schumacher doing that.
Exactly, yeah.
I do remember a certain Nigel was there as well.
And I thought that loophole was closed after that, but we'll find out.
Well, yeah, it's a bit risky doing what he's doing there.
Yeah, he stayed out at the moment. Hohenadel still in 7th. Winkelhock is in 8th place, just to remind you, in the Lamborghini. Here comes Enger then. This is a last chance, perhaps. Or is it the next run out of the chicane and up towards Scene that will be his last chance?
He's going to be out of the shade. He doesn't want to hit that curve. That's better.
He's on the inside! Wow!
What a lovely move. Typical Thomas, somewhere where you wouldn't expect it.
Wow!
Oh, brilliant.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Off the brakes, he just rolled it in alongside. There was nothing Westbrook could do about that.
I love him for that. That's what he's like. He just doesn't give up. He's in a good position now because, although Richard's close to him, he's not quick enough around this part of the circuit.
There is our race leader, though. It's Michael Krum. An amazing pit stop on his car. Not quite the fastest of all, but it was 3 seconds faster than they managed on the number 22 car. That's what got him in front. He was ever so careful on his outlap, as if he knew he had to protect his tyres. Whether that was the reason or not, he just fended off Westbrook, and ever since then, his tyres have lasted the distance. He has been able to lap consistently fast, and in fact, for the first time this year, they might have won a championship race, but it's the first time this year they've won a qualifying race. Lucas Luhr and Michael Krum take victory in the qualifying race here at Paul Ricard. They earn themselves pole position for tomorrow, and Westbrook's lost another place. Aston's finished 2nd and 3rd.
Wow.
Westbrook finishes in 4th. And don't worry about the Corvette, that was a lap down, several laps down anyway. 5th place goes to the Ford of Makovic, and drive-through on the last lap. You're right, for Jamie Campbell-Walter, but it means Hohenadel 6th. 7th will go to Winkelhock with the Lamborghini that was struggling. 8th goes to Engelbert and Rossi, and 9th, I think, with the drive-through, will have gone to Jamie Campbell-Walter and David Brabham. And Jan Stubel there of young driver. He is so pleased to have got 2nd and 3rd. The owner of the young driver team, he's got his beautiful Aston Martin 177 here this weekend as well. Well, he is delighted to see that his team have brought home a 2nd and 3rd places in the qualifying race. But I tell you what an accomplished performance it was by Lucas Luhr and Michael Krum, despite the pressure from their teammates.
Absolutely, and I think it was a lovely calculated drive. No errors, paced it beautifully, very consistent, and that's what made him win the race.
Yeah, there's congratulating his driver, Alex Muller, with Thomas Enger. What a move, though. I want to see that one again if possible.
I do. Well, I think what happened, actually, I think the move was brilliant, but I think what it did help was actually then the Aston Martin behind, because then he had the drive up the straight and was close enough, I reckon, through Scene corner, and then out-braked him into that Bassac corner, that double right-hander. I reckon that's where it did. So actually he benefited himself and a fellow Aston Martin as well.
There was no doubt that Westbrook was struggling for grip, though. I mean, that car was getting slower and slower. I mean,
well, we saw that with Jamie as well. So obviously we saw that they were struggling. But
last lap,
oh no, well, as I said, Thomas will never ever give up. He would have even tried that for sure on the last corner, because it would have been an opportunity that he knows that is very possible. But to do that was just brilliant, because I think I wasn't expecting it, you wasn't expecting it, and I don't think Richard was either. That was just what he's very good at.
That was a real opportunist, but really clever.
Beautifully done. Oh yeah, and he wasn't bad. He didn't drive in the side of him. Brilliant.
Let's take a look at this.
There we go.
Here we go.
Oh, wonderful. So he's gone so wide here, you see. Now the Aston there is behind. He's trying to get back on track.
This is the onboard view. This was afterwards. And Westbrook going, what are you doing?
I thought that would have been a congratulations.
Well, I suppose Westbrook felt he had to get out of the way there.
Well,
but
that's part of it. That's right. He didn't drive in the side of it.
No, it was the last lap, and it was
opportunity.
Yeah,
he took it. Richard did very well not turning into him, because they could have taken them both out of the race. But at the end of the day, that's racing, isn't it, Ben? That's what it's all about.
That's right, he went for it, and he got the place. Lucas Luhr, though, has got the win with his teammate Michael Krum. Goes over and congratulates Darren Turner. Darren Turner's smiling because he's got a podium out of this, which he wasn't expecting at all until that last lap. But Richard Westbrook, who was really struggling, and then Enger just slotted it down the inside. It was a risky manoeuvre. Westbrook saw it, though. It was a great pass. And there's Michael Krum to come over and cuddle his co-driver after they've delivered a very, very good victory here, and that gives them the all-important pole position for tomorrow, where they could be on target for their second win of the season. And there is Muller to congratulate Enger's move at the end there, and the team, look at him, they're loving it. I mean, the team always respond when a driver pulls off a manoeuvre like that and makes it work without damaging the car. Suddenly he goes a hero.
Absolutely, he deserves to be a hero.
Yeah. Oh, it's lovely. Really, really great move, that. And Michael Crump.
Good drive by those guys, I have to say.
Yeah.
Very calculated, very shrewd. Fantastic pit stop.
Yep.
Got them the lead, but then utilised it once they got in the lead, and they just drove away.
Yeah, they did. In the latter stages, they had the grip. They were still putting in quick lap times, even in the last few laps. Whereas Westbrook and, as you say, Jamie Campbell-Walter, they were both really struggling to get that sort of performance. And Stefan Nooker, well, he's ended up with a third-place finish out of it as well.
Yeah.
So all came about really in the last few laps, but an entertaining qualifying race. Even though it was sort of dominated in the latter stages by Krum and Law. Westbrook and Dunbrecht fought hard in the early part of the race, that's for sure. They had the lead going into the pit stops, but it went wrong for them with a slightly slower pit stop, and that basically then determined the outcome of the race. So young driver Aston Martin, who've had a little bit of a tough season, but they've certainly delivered here today, but winning the race, Lucas Law and Michael Krum.
Michael, after a storming pit stop from the team, this is a fantastic result.
Yeah, this is, for me, it's the best win for the GTR, the most exciting win for Lucas and me, I think. Because we had to work really hard for this, and as you've seen, there's absolutely no team orders going on, and it's like, Lucas' drive was amazing when the other guys pitted, and Lucas just banged down fast laps, and that enabled me to come out in the lead. And I mean, thank you so much to the team. The GTR today ran just unbelievable.
And Lucas, another safe and fair battle, and what exciting racing it was.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I had fun with Richard and a couple of laps, and Peter, yeah. And no, I think everything worked out well. Our car handles brilliant throughout the stint, and yeah, now we have a different and very difficult task for tomorrow, because, I mean, let's face it, a win today is nice, but what we really want is to win tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's when the 25 points are on offer. But let's take another look at how second place, this was the battle going on between the two Nissans. This was Michael Krum, and this was the moment that actually Westbrook was ahead. He was ahead in the race of the other one, and then through went Krum on the inside. So in the end, the second place went to Enger and Muller, and I think Haley is about to catch up with them.
Congratulations, Thomas. After coming into the weekend with low expectations, this is quite a result.
Well, yeah, thanks to the team, we've done great pit stop. We were able to catch up the Nissans after the pit stop. Alex did a great job to hang on to them. Obviously, third place after the start, and then it was the Nissan was struggling. I think it was Richard in the car at that moment, and he was struggling with the tires the last 5 laps, and it was just a matter of finding the right spot to overtake him, because obviously I'm faster out of the corner, but that car has 30 horsepower more, and you can't overtake him on the straight or on the braking. So you just need to do something like I did in the chicane, and it worked. So we got great position for tomorrow's race. So let's hope we can swap the positions with Lucas and Michael like they did with us in Silverstone race.
And Alex, congratulations. The challenge is now on tomorrow for the championship race.
Yes, of course, thank you. Yes, as Thomas said, he did a great passing maneuver in the last lap. It was good. So first line, and as he said, hopefully we can swap places like in Silverstone.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I said they were out for revenge for that defeat in the Tourist Trophy, and that's certainly on their minds as well. Look at this once again, Johnny.
Yeah, well, you can see he really goes into the braking zone very, very late and just carries that speed and just throws it down the inside. Just a lovely move. Yeah. Good for Rich, I have to say. It was good stuff by Rich. Unfortunately, he lost out a little bit because the following Aston Martin, I think, was able to overtake him in the next corner or two. And there it is. You just hear the engine, it's roaring, he's just gone for it. And it's just lovely. Yeah, a little bit wide, but that's okay for me. I think that was just a wonderful racing manoeuvre. And typically it was Thomas who does it.
And he made the point that, he had to do something like that if he was going to get past, because he was never going to do it at the end of the straight. Let's get down to the third place finishers now.
Congratulations, Stefan. You stole it in the last few seconds.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I had quite a lot of problems with the front, so a lot of understeer. But at the end, Thomas was ahead of me and got the Nissan in the last corner or in the last lap, and I was able to do the same. Richard left the door quite a lot open for the second last left-hander, and I just outbraked him. It was a nice move, and yeah, for sure, I'm happy. Second row for tomorrow, so everything is all right.
Darren, is this a good surprise, and do you think you can do this tomorrow?
I hope so. I mean, we're fifth on the grid, got up to third in the race, so yeah, good step in the right direction for tomorrow. And it's just nice to be competitive up here against the Nissans with a power circuit like this. So no, should make for a good race tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will have a race on our hands, there's no doubt about it, between Nissan and Aston Martin, looking at the way they've gone today. Nissan might have come out on top, but then it's Aston Martin second and third, and Nissan fourth. Confirmation of that result then, it is the JR Motorsports Nissan of Michael Krum and Lucas Law that take victory comfortably in the end by over 8 seconds, but a last lap lunge from Thomas Enger has earned him second place for the young driver Aston, and his teammate Stefan Mucker followed him through to take the final podium spot. Westbrook, having led the race with Dumbreck in the early stages, they finished fourth, and a good fifth place for Makovic and Martin in their Ford GT. Fastest pit stop and sixth place went to Hohenadel and Piccini in the Hexus Aston Martin, and the Lamborghini that led the championship, Winkelhock and Basseng, just outside the points, whereas their big rivals did score points, so nonetheless they've still got a decent grid position for tomorrow. Engelbert and Rossi finished in 8th place ahead of the Nissan of Jamie Campbell-Walter and David Brabham, who had a drive-through right at the end, followed by Katzberg and Bernaldi in their Nissan. 11th place went to the Corvette of Hazelmans and Zuber, but they had all sorts of problems and they were well down in the end, and also out of it were Pastorelli and Dominic Schweger. They had engine troubles. Other cars that didn't make it to the finish, 3 of the Fords, I'm afraid, the 2 Belgian cars and the Mark Henrici and Bas Leinder's car, and also crashing out in the early stages was the Hexus Aston Martin of Stef Dusseldorf. So as the guys make their way up towards the podium, we'll see those podium celebrations in just a moment or two. And of course we've still got the championship race to come here at Paul Ricard on Sunday. See whether Krum and Law are going to be able to do that. Let's just take a look and see if we can work out what happened to Richard Westbrook in terms of Stefan Mucker. Now remember, bit of history between those two, looking back at Silverstone, of course.
So that wasn't, he didn't go up the side of Thomas in that last after the checkered flag. Obviously he was up the, so he's wide, you can see how wide he is. He's very wide. He did leave the door open.
It's a hefty thump. Hefty Mucker comes through.
Kiss.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you think of what happened at Silverstone, the fact that Stefan Mucker kept his licence, but it was all a bit marginal with the incident at Silverstone when he swiped Richard Westbrook down the Hangar Straight. And it's interesting that the two of them have shared blows once again.
But Richard was very wide there, I think.
Yeah. So there was an open door, going into the corner. So let's take a look at some of the highlights of what has been an entertaining qualifying race here at Paul Ricard. Conditions have been just about ideal, a lot of work and thought going into the race plan from teams. The 2 Nissans started together on the front row of the grid, and Peter Dumbreck had the initial advantage over Lucas Law as they turned into the first corner. Alex Muller slotted the Aston Martin up into 3rd place, but there was a bit of bumping and boring as expected through the first couple of corners, and then this incident, Henrici running into Bernaldi, taking out Jan Claret in the number 10 Ford at the same time, and Henrici's race was pretty much over as a result of all that. Nevertheless, everybody else seemed to make it around on the opening lap, and as they jostled for position up front, this was the accident. We only just saw it start to go. That was Stef Dusseldorf crashing out in his Hexus Aston Martin, made heavy contact. Safety car was brought out, then was withdrawn to the pits, and we saw the pit stops then taking place, and some pretty quick changes, particularly from the Nissan of JRM for Michael Krum and Lucas Law. Richard Westbrook took over from Peter Dumbreck. There was a slight delay there as they tried to get going. There was no delay at all on the number 23 car when it came in, and there was still a good race going on for the number 21. This was 23 then coming out as Michael Krum came out, and he had a big advantage over Richard Westbrook. Now the amazing thing was that Westbrook was able to close up that gap over the rest of the lap, as Krum appeared to be very cautious on his outlap, perhaps on purpose to look after the tyres, and it meant that Westbrook really went on the attack and for a moment actually got in front across the line there, but it wasn't to last because Krum had the inside line, was composed and comfortable. Now this was a moment for Thomas Enger towards the end of the race. He gathered that one and it caused a smile for David Brabham, but it wasn't all over for him, as meanwhile Jamie Campbell-Walter was on the attack, and that was in fact the move of Marcus Winkelhock to take the position. Second place though was gained by Thomas Enger just on the last lap, getting past Richard Westbrook. Westbrook didn't seem too impressed, but the Astons, or that maybe that was to Stefan Mucker he was actually making that gesture to. So those are the highlights of the qualifying race. We'll see you for the championship race again tomorrow.